Okay, my dear friends, let's go ahead and close our eyes, elevate our thoughts. Be thankful for the opportunity to be here, the opportunity to learn a little bit more, the opportunity to understand Jesus' passages, the opportunity to grow as an individual, to work through our progress, so we can help ourselves and help the others. Let's welcome all the spiritual friends that are here with us, and so be it. So today we're going to continue chapter 23, Strange Morals. This chapter is very interesting because all the teachings on this chapter are very intriguing, and that's why Kardec named Strange Morals. Today specifically, we're gonna talk about forsaken father, mother, and children. The word forsaken is actually, I did a little bit more research about it, and it's not even the correct translation. I mean, if you think about this, has been written so many years ago and has been translated in so many different languages. So the true translation would be hate father, mother, and children. And I believe that's also the way that it's written on the Bible. But Kardec made it a little bit easier on us. He wrote forsaken father, mother, and children. And I believe Emmanuel had wrote abandoned father, mother, and children. So this is going to be the topic for today, forsaken father, mother, and children. And why is this such a strange teaching? Because we can't see this coming from Jesus, from Jesus, right? I mean, it goes against everything that we have learned. It goes against the 10 Commandments, which has honor father and mother. So very strange. But we are gonna try to understand a little bit more. So Matthew, by Matthew, the strange teaching, whoever has left for my name, that's according to Matthew, the words from Jesus, whoever has left for my name, his brothers or his sisters or his father or his mother or his wife or his children or his land. So pretty much he embraced right there everything that you own. Everything, I'm sorry, not that you own, because you don't own people, but everything that you think you own and everything that it's part of your life. So everything is there. And he's basically saying, if you abandon everything, you shall receive 100-fold and shall have eternal life as an inheritance. So again, very strange, right? We're gonna try to understand a little bit more why Jesus said it that way according to Matthew, and just try to understand the meaning of these words. So the expression is used by Jesus, and this is not just on this teaching, on everything that we have studied about Jesus and about his teachings. Without arguing over words, here we must look for the meaning and teaching. There is a few passages that we can remember that if we are going to try to understand the literal meaning of those words, we're not going to get anywhere. So we have to remember that, again, Jesus, for him to make people back then to understand the meaning of his words, he did have to use sometimes some harshment on his words. But again, we're talking about scriptures that was written after Jesus had passed away. Nothing was written by him a lot of different languages and a lot of different interpretations written by hand. We also, one easy way to realize is that when you hear these, when you hear about these teachings today, you can talk about to someone else. Of course, this is going to be recorded, so it's easy to explain. But if you're going to talk about this in 20 years from now with someone else, you might not use exactly the same words that I'm using here. So very easy to get a miscommunication on those words that Jesus had used. But we have to understand the meaning, definitely. So forsaking father, mother, and children, it is not rejecting the family. That's not what Jesus meant. Again, one of the commandments is honor father and mother. So he's not telling us to reject the family. This will be denying the doctrine of Jesus. The meaning is the interest of the future life should be placed above all human interests and considerations. So in other words, whatever is our interest for the future life should be put above anything else. One of his main teachings that we can put above any of them is love God above all things. So this is pretty much, we can understand that as one of the meanings of these passages: love God above all things. Love God above your family, your wife, your husband, your children. Put God above everything else. Such thought is in accord with the substance of Jesus' doctrine. So that's the correct meaning of those words. And how can we apply this teaching? How do we apply this teaching in our lives? So those who leave their family to defend their country for the interest of the country. So here is one of the perfect examples of those young kids. They're leaving their family, but they have an interest. What is the interest for that? To defend their country. A daughter that leaves her parents to follow her husband for the interest of the family, the interest of forming a new family. So that's another great example there. And of course, the apostles, as they told Jesus, as for us, we left everything to follow you. For what? For the interest of the future life. Now, doing that, what is the fulfillment of a duty? Some duties are above others. So again, when we have depending on what we want for future life, in that case, when a daughter leaves the family to form a new family, but that doesn't mean that the affections are going to be break. When the young man leaves their family to defend their country, again, that doesn't mean the affections are going to break. So the affections are going to stay no matter what. Remember, we're not talking about abandoning here. We're talking about pursuing a different path for your future life. And the logic of separation. The separation is a natural law, like we have studied as well. It's needed for a progress, for the moral and the material progress. When someone leaves their country to go study on a different country, leaves their family to go study, that's an example of the material progress. You need to go somewhere else. It's a material need, but it's very important. The separation you can put that in a lot of different examples on your everyday life, and it's needed. It's part of the natural process, and it has to be done. Otherwise, we would grow up and have a house that fits 30, 40 people in the same house. We would all live together, and that's not healthy, mentally healthy, and not. This is not what we need for progress. The we need the separation. And the help us understand that the true bonds of affections are spiritual, not corporeal. So those are the true bonds. Those are the bonds that we are going to come back after we disincarnate. After we disincarnate, we're going to go back to our spiritual life. And those are the true bonds. The life that we live in here is necessary for our progress, but they are mostly material affections. The true affections are on the spiritual life. The true bonds don't break by separation or by the death of the body, definitely not. When we come back, those true bonds are still, when we go back, when we disincarnate and we go back to our spiritual life, those bonds are going to exist sometimes, and we hope that's stronger than ever, because there is a meaning for our incarnation. Hopefully we came back to make those bonds stronger, to fix whatever we had agreed to, and those bonds are going to be stronger. But they are strengthened in the spiritual life by the purification of the spirit. So our incarnation is very needed for that. Nobody can, unless you are on a very high level, but nobody can progress without incarnating again, and that's what we need to progress. So some of the reflections that we can talk about this passage is again that Jesus himself never wrote anything. The New Testament was written after Jesus' death. Too many translations of Jesus' passages, one word, various meanings, various interpretations. We can get any language in Portuguese or in English. How many times, how many words do we have? The one word means so many things. Now you can imagine if those scriptures was written after Jesus, 40 or 50 years after Jesus died. It was handwritten, of course, sometimes by not even, by the same person that heard what was written there. So it's the meaning. I think that's what we have to focus on, the meaning, but not necessarily on the exactly translation of those passages. I guess the main teaching on this would be love God above all things, because that's what Jesus has taught us. Love God above all things doesn't necessarily mean leave everything behind, but put God on top of everything else. One other thing too that I want to mention is that we had, as I was doing a little bit of research about this, see, today we have the internet. Jesus had a lot of people following him, sometimes just for the food, the bread and the water that he was giving out. So I think also for some of his passages, it had to be a little bit strict. So only those true Christians would continue to follow him, those that were ready to leave everything behind in order to follow his commandments. So I think this is a very good way of us to do reflection. Are we ready to put God above all things? Not abandon, but are we ready to follow Jesus' commandments? Leave everything behind. That doesn't necessarily mean, leave your house, leave your husband, leave your wife, but just sometimes some bad habits that we have, some things that we know that we do wrong, or some things that we should be giving more attention to, but we don't. So I think this is a good way to think about this. let's put God above all things, and let's try to, you know, understand a little bit more all the sacrifice that Jesus has done to us. I think also all his passages, true meaning of the words or not, but Jesus had followed them very well. So let's try to do our part here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I do the final prayer now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so one more time, let's go ahead and close our eyes, elevate our thoughts. Let's feel the good energy that is around us. Let's feel all the good spirits, all spiritual friends that came here to comfort us, to help us understand the true meaning of Jesus' words. Let's ask them to make our legs strong so we can continue to walk on the good path. And if we fall, then we have them next to us to help us stand up and continue. Because we know we're going to fall. But let us have the knowledge and let us have the courage to understand our falls and to continue. So we can work in our progress. We can help the ones around us, the ones sometimes in so much need, those that still don't understand. But we are here to help them. And so be it.
And so be it.